fiscal year 2021-2022 budget. We're gonna just start where we left off last night. And if it's okay, and Jim, just let me know if there's any issue with it. I wanted to start with Mark, since he was nice enough to push this to tonight. So we might as well start with him, and then he can hop off once he's done if he likes. So, Chris, is there anything that we need to know before Mark speaks?
Jim, did you want to say something or?
Yes, briefly on the solicitor's budget. Originally, the amount that I had put in for the town manager's proposed budget was 180, and that was based on last year's billables between Steve Marsala, Andy Berg, and Mark Davis. And during that year, there was a ton of OMA complaints, APRA requests, and litigation. As we poured through the bills and spoke with Mark and looked at where we're going in the future now, what we anticipate, I would go down to below last year's projection. 165 is an appropriate amount, and Mark Davis agrees as well on that. That was the only thing I needed to say about that.
Thanks, Jim. Mark, I mean, it's really one line item here. So, but if there's, I have a few questions about how it's broken out, but if there's anything that you wanted to add before we get into the questions, feel free.
No, just so everyone is on the same page, there's a fixed fee component to it, $5,000 a month for the general legal bucket, then $2,500 a month for municipal court and district court, and there's $2,500 a month for planning and zoning. So on a fixed fee basis, it comes out to $120,000 a year. And then anything above $120,000 would be special project or litigation related. That's really all I have to say.
Okay.
I think we're trending. I don't know where the numbers, I haven't seen the revised numbers, but I think we're trending to come in this year below what was forecasted. At least the numbers I'm looking at, we should be coming in somewhere around 25,000 or so below what was forecasted.
Good.
Mark, do you, as just kind of a guess or a assumption, would you say that any of the decrease in hours had to do with COVID, litigation being, on some cases being kind of delayed, Zoom and all of that? I know that things are catching up now, but I know there was a period of time where there was like a lot of things getting pushed back.
The court schedule was definitely backed up and delayed, but as far as our matters go, no, I think the numbers would have been the same had we been on a normal schedule. I mean, they might have been allocated over different months, but no, I think this budget, it reflects the actual legal dollars that would have been spent even in a normal year.
Okay. And this number includes our three solicitors, you, Andy, and Steve.
The 165, yes. So 120 fixed and estimating about 45,000 for, litigation special projects.
Got it. Okay. All right. That makes sense to me. Eva, do you have any questions for Mark or Jim?
No, I'm all set. Thanks.
All right. How about you, Deb?
No, I'm fine.
Okay, great. Well, that's great. So Mark, thank you. Sorry that we had to push it back a night for you.
No, thanks for putting me first. I appreciate it.
You got it.
All right, you guys have a good night.
Good night, Mark.
Good night,
All right,
Mark.
good night.
Okay. So Chris, next we'll go to town manager.
Correct. That'll be a page 10 in the operating budget.
Good evening, everyone.
There you go.
Well, the town manager's budget is pretty straightforward. Lines up until 50128. Those are standard expenses. Professional services, there's $1,000 in there. That's more in the event that we might need a study or special services for something, any type of a study conducted out of the office if we needed a consultant or anything. That's there. Advertising and promotion is the ads for the South County Tourism. Licensure licensure and publications and subscriptions is Projo, Independent, and the Times. License and dues, ICMA, the notary fees. Office equipment is laptops and desks if needed, which we definitely need a new computer one in this office. But professional meetings is the ICMA conference, which was not held last year, and this year it'll probably be virtual. So, but I budgeted anyway as it's listed.
Yeah, there's not much change in his.
All right. So, sorry, I was taking notes, so I might have missed. But the full time is for you and Patty, right?
That's correct.
Okay. And so nothing really stands out as a large increase. I guess the biggest one would just be salary. But I mean, it's not really a huge increase, but I think that'd be maybe the biggest percentage wise.
Can I ask Chris a question?
Yeah.
Chris, the healthcare percentages, are they finalized yet?
Not yet, not yet. And this budget is still reflecting the high amounts, don't forget.
Right.
Right, I just had, on the 5th, I gave you that, the savings are about 150,800, I believe. So
Okay.
it will be adjusted once we go forward and make all these changes.
Okay, so just to clarify, I'm sorry, Jim, I'm just.
No, that's all right.
But I'm just trying to figure this out. So just to clarify, we will not really know the full effect of healthcare changes until we do, whenever that happens. We also don't know what's happening in terms of funding from the state or the feds based on COVID, which could also have an impact. Actually, that in a way, I guess it has an impact on this year, sort of, but it will be reflected in next year, right? So those are
Right, we're going
two.
to get it this year, but it's good that federal money is good till December 2024.
Right. Okay.
So,
Okay. So there are some revenues that are potential and most likely for us in relation to this budget, because I'm just trying to get my head around the current size of the budget. What we need to do in terms of the percentage of increase in taxes, and how we can make that palatable for our residents. So I just want to make sure that I know all the variables that haven't been determined yet. Is there anything else in the revenue line that we don't know about yet?
not yet, that's come
Okay,
up to
All right.
fruition now.
thank you.
We've got the state aid numbers, the estimates, which I mentioned on the 5th,
Right.
right? So
That's another one.
about even, there's a little bit of savings overall. It was under 100,000 though. It was not huge.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Sorry for interrupting.
Nope, that's fine.
Evan, do you have any questions or comments on the manager's budget?
I do not. Thank you.
All right, I'm good too. Thanks, Jim.
Thank you.
So next is the town council budget. So it's on page 3. It's not very big. It went up, what, 1,000, came down. It came down a little bit. Why did it come down? Let me see. The 2,000 was contracted personnel, but that's professional service and contracted were the same thing. So we just left it in one line item, the professional services of 25,950, which has been left in there for a couple of years. for any kind of special projects or things that, studies that the town council may want. So, you know, you can review this, and the licenses and dues went up a little bit. That's for the Rhode Island Leagues of Cities and Towns. Otherwise, everything else is the same.
All right. Go ahead,
sorry.
Deb.
No, I'm out of turn. Eva gets first dibs here.
Eva, any comments?
I don't have any, thanks.
Deb?
So I was just, the personal services amount, I mean, it's $25,000 and we apparently don't spend it. So should we at least make it smaller? A smaller number? Or is there some special reason why it's the number that it is?
That was in place before I arrived.
Yeah.
And it was in place, it was explained to me at the time that was set aside for any special projects or studies. And if we hired any type of a consultant to look into something for the council that was separate. And that's primarily what it has been used for.
Okay. I'm not sure that we need a place marker that size if we don't generally use it. That was one question that I had. And another one is, in the 2021 actual, under legal services, there's an $18,950 spend, and I was just wondering what that was for. Do we know?
Yes, that's the project, was it the study?
Fire study.
What study?
Was it the fire study?
Yes, fire study. Thank you. I drew a blank on that one. So it was a lawyer. So even though you had the 25,000 in professional service, it was really a legal service. So that's why there was nothing budgeted, but
Oh, so,
spent out of the 25, because you have to expend it what it's for, you know? Where it
okay.
matches.
I got you. So, but actually, if you think about it, it is what the 25,000 was in there for, sort of.
Yes,
Yes.
right.
Gotcha. Just different lines. All
Yeah.
right.
And-
Okay, thank you.
And yeah, sorry. So just I would actually like to keep it in there. It's a new council. You know, I have some ideas of things that I think we should look into. So just to have it there, because it's budgeted, it's in there. If we don't use it, we don't use it. But if it's not budgeted, then we go over budget. So
Well, I didn't want to get rid of it. I just didn't think we necessarily needed, almost $26,000 in there. That's all. Like maybe 20.
I know, but things, if you have more than one or service, I mean, things add up. If there's opportunities for us to look into things and they require surveys and.
Right.
Okay.
I think that's an interesting one. I never even really noticed it because we never used it. Chris,
Yes.
don't we have like another fund, like a discretionary fund that the council could have access to if there were certain requests? I know that when we had talked about doing like a special election, which we didn't do, but it was a discussion. We had talked about how that would be funded, and there was this conversation about some sort of discretionary fund, or I can't remember if that was the terminology.
It was contingency funds.
Right.
We always budget 300,000 in contingency. Last year, it was a little bit less because of the last minute state aid cuts.
Okay.
It was 208, I don't know, 200 something thousand, but this year we're back in at 300,000. So there's that. And we use that contingency for any emergencies or, over the top retirements, if we have a mass exodus or things like that.
And do you know, just from your time around here, if I don't know how far back it goes, but do you know if we've ever really gone through that contingency fund?
Have we ever what?
Gone through it, used all of it?
Not that I'm aware of. You might have done some during the big changes in the exodus in 1033 and Council 94 when the last contract was done. There was a big exodus because of changes in the retirement and benefits. So a lot of people left then. So maybe in 2017, 18, they might have, because there was a lot of people that retired.
Got it.
But
Okay.
that's as far as I go. So that's.
And then when we budget something, I mean, maybe I should know this, but I don't. When we budget something and it's in the budget and we have our tax rate and people pay their property taxes that year, if we don't use that money, it does go back into our general fund, but the taxpayers don't see any refund.
No, it goes,
Right.
whatever we don't use, it goes back, it goes into fund balance.
Okay, I just want to be clear on that because, you know, I guess the idea with this kind of line item, the 25,000, if there are other places where funds can be used if we have a request, I'd rather not put something in the budget if we're not going to use it because people still pay taxes on it. Or, you know, that it goes towards their tax rate. They're not going to get a refund. So that's just something to think about, I guess. So, you know, on that 25,000, because I don't know if we've ever used that. And a lot of times if we have a request, it'll go to a department and it might be staff that does that request or other funding. I don't want to talk too much about $25,000, but.
Right, but you did use 18 of it this year, right?
Yeah.
So that was the legal services, right?
Right.
Yeah, but it was, that's because it was legal activity, but the funding essentially was available to us through this other line item. So it's,
Correct.
you just balance it off each other. So, I mean, I kind of get that. I feel a little hamstrung because I'd love to go back like 5 years in some of these lines and see, you know, what we've done, because that does have an impact too. But I do have a question. If we do have a surplus at the end of a year, and it goes into the general fund, do we take that money and use it towards the budget for the next year? In other words,
That's up to you.
oh, so do we have a surplus?
We have, oh, yes, yes.
Oh,
We have a policy, a fund balance policy that states we should be within 10 to 16.7 or 16.6%
oh, right.
of the budget, operating general fund budget. That we should stay in that range. And prior to the $2.8 million coming back, we were down at 11%,
Right.
around
And
that.
now we're at 14 or something.
Now we're up to 40 because the last 2 years, this year we're in 21 and 2020. Department heads were very, very, very cautious with their budgets.
Right.
Stopped a lot of spending, a lot of hiring. So we ended up with surplus, which is good. But now we're at 14.4% after the 2020. Now we add the 2.8 into that, we're going to be even higher. So we're at a good place in fund balance now, and it just took that one turn. I can't tell you exactly where we're going to be at the end of 2021 because I don't know the expenditures yet.
So should there be a situation where we hit the 16.6 and beyond, then we could authorize utilizing some of those funds. I mean, I guess we still could now. You authorize utilizing some of those funds instead of a tax increase or the full tax increase.
Right. You just don't want to make it part of your operating all the time because it's not how you survive, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
They're good for one-offs, maybe, you know, right now we're in, we're in a better position than we were last year.
Yeah. I'm not suggesting that we use it. I just.
No, I'm just, I just want to
process.
give the warning. You don't want to
Okay.
keep using that because
No.
it depletes it and then we're in trouble.
Right. Okay.
Susan, we are on the town council budget. So it's page 3. We're about to move on, but if you have any questions about it or comments, feel free.
No, I'm all set with the town council budget.
All right.
You asked about the 25, right, in the budget?
Yep.
We did.
Yep.
Yeah. All right, cool. So Chris,
All right.
what's up next?
So next we have John Gearhart on engineering first, then water, and then wastewater. So we're starting on page, with engineering on page 34, the operating, and 44 in capital projects. So John, go ahead and take it away.
Good evening, everyone, again. Yeah, I think similar to the other budgets, there's not a lot of changes here. The engineering budget's pretty straightforward. Wages and everything is all pretty much the same. The increases are mostly come from increase in wages, it looks like. Actually, no, that's similar. It's the pension contributions and some of the FICA numbers, and then the the other item. That's yeah, that's about it for there. One item I do want to call out here: we do need to request an additional amount across the three budgets. We had we were doing some internal IT was evaluating the computers here, and they're doing some operating system upgrades, and realized that we had some 10-year-old software that's going to cause some problems with the current operating system. So it's our AutoCAD software, which we use for drafting for the water and wastewater departments, and for DPW for the stormwater systems, and for as well as for some of our other work in-house. It's the new service is 8295, and we're going to split it three ways between the three departments. There's three computers in engineering that get the software package, and it'll be $29.75 to each budget. So we would like to increase the engineering with it's a line item that's not on here. It would be it's
PC software?
yeah, PC software. It'll be zero. What is it? Where's the number here? Sorry.
That's okay.
It's 50320 will be the line item in there, and it'll be 29.75. That way it's a budgeted item. We just found out about this. We were going to try and find some money for it and get it done for before the budgeting, but in the crunch here, we decided to just wait till now to ask for it. And then, yeah, basically the operating expenses are all pretty much the same, with the exception of that number. That's an increase of $2,700. Otherwise, our operating expenses would all be the same, or projections would all be the same for this year as last year for engineering.
Okay. Actually, before we go around for comments, why don't we change this up a little bit and look at the capital improvements for engineering as well, and then we can comment on everything.
Glad you asked that. Because that capital improvements were at a zero here for this year on the initial ask. Well, initially we were going to request a vehicle for this year, which we had postponed from last year, and we thought we were going to be able to do that. We postponed it last year because we had some hand-me-down vehicles, and we were in good shape with that. We actually had one in that we replaced with another hand-me-down in the middle of the year last year. And the beginning of the year this year, we thought we were going to be able to live until next budget season for the with that vehicle, but they put a plow on it. It was the former DPW truck, and when they put a plow on it this winter to help with the plowing, I think they popped a line or a brake line, and they put it up on a lift, and it can't go back on the road. So we're without a vehicle right now for engineering, so we need to reestablish that in the budget. And we, as I said, we had been using hand-me-down pickup trucks or wherever we could beg, borrow, or steal a vehicle from. But what we budgeted for is a small SUV, which they've been getting, the Chevy Equinoxes. And I think they've had success with those vehicles.
Okay, great, nice and simple. Susan, any comments or questions about the operating or capital improvements for engineering?
Well, the capital improvements, John, you just said the SUV, that's it, the replacement, everything, there's nothing else there that I see, right? There's no.
That's the, yeah, exactly. There's the capital. We really don't have a lot of capital items here. We may be looking in the next, that's really the only
Okay.
item historically that's been capital. Most of the other items, any kind of PCs or computers or things like that will come out of operating. We'll put those in at those times.
Okay, great. Thanks. I thought I was missing something because I saw the zeros. Thanks.
Have any thoughts?
No, it's all good. Straightforward. Thanks.
Deb?
I'm fine, thank you.
Okay. I'm fine too. Thanks, John. So we could go to wastewater or water, sorry, enterprise.
Yeah, page 64.
Okay, make sure I'm on the right page here. Yep, and again, this is all similar running from last year. We've got wages. The operating is all mostly wages, and the health insurance and all the personnel issues. Those are all similar to last year with representative changes. I think there's only about right now about a $3,000 difference projected in those items for salaries and benefits and wages, contracted services. And the rest of the budget items, I think, are all straightforward as well. We're all running all our numbers real similar from last year. Really no major changes to those items that we have proposed here, with the exception of, again, we've got we do have 2765. We do want to add into the line 50320 for the shared cost for that AutoCAD subscription. And why am I just looking at the numbers here where something's coming up with a big difference here, but I don't see where it comes in from. I think we're similar on those items.
There's the buildings, John, down 50613. Is that, I don't have my ruler, but 275,000?
No, I think that's all in the capital side. That's out of the capital accounts.
Oh, yeah, I apologize. You're correct. I forget you.
Oh, I hear it. That's why. There it is. Oh,
Sorry.
I just no. It's yeah. There is actually one item, the professional services item. Let me go back and double check that number again. 50201. Sorry, I'm trying to scroll across the screen here again. Yeah, we had that. That was normally like an $18 or $20,000 item there, but the increase there is 89. We have budgeted. We kind of budgeted across for the hydraulic model that we're working on now. That's we've started that project already, but that's all put into budget for next year. So that's where that changes. Otherwise, all those numbers are in line with this year's numbers. And then if you want to do the same thing, Jess, and go right to the.
Yeah, let's go ahead and do that.
All right. Right
Okay.
page.
72?
Let me just find that right. I need the right page on the screen because I had it on a different one.
John, are you using the PDF?
Yeah, I went to page 72, but it's not on page 70.
Oh, you got to go to 172. It's a totally separate section of that PDF.
That's what I thought.
So you go to 172, and then it'll
It's
say.
actually, I think it's higher than, I think it's like 180 because there's a few extra pages in there.
I'll just go to what the sheets I have because I have it set up the same way. I can work off of
What did I have?
the main topic here. Come on, get to the right. Yeah, basically we have the 9 different water projects budgeted. The first item is the water main replacement program. That's an annual $20,000 we put in the budget for any kind of major repairs or replacements of water mains as they come in and crop up. No extensive or broad-based projects in the works right now. Hydrant replacement is the same. We replace a handful of hydrants each year, and we allot $9,000 for the work for the purchase of those hydrants. And to do that, it's a hydrant or two each year when it comes down to. The general system improvements is basically an allotment which we carry for things that aren't under either a planned improvement or just to be able to have money aside for smaller improvements. I believe we took May of last year took the mixing system that we put in the Point Judith tank out of those funds, and any smaller projects, doors or replacements or things like that crop up. I think we've that aren't necessarily planned for or major budget items. The radio read program, that is is going to be the meter replacement program. That's a project that's we've had in the works or envisioned to do for a few years here, but it hasn't gotten off the ground completely. We've got to get those replacing. That involves replacing all our water system customer meters with a fixed based radio read system and upgrading that system that way. So that's a project that's we need to do because of the meters and radio reading current hardware, and the meter radio equipment has a finite lifetime on its battery system. So those things will start wearing out sooner than later. So we need to replace all that system. And again, some of that was budgeted previously, and there was some money set aside in prior budgets to offset that. And then we need to figure out about how to reimburse the fund balance for those items. Vehicle replacement, that's the stake body truck, work truck with a plow on it. It's got about 125,000 miles on it now. So it's at the end of its lifetime. I think we pushed that out the last 2 years, maybe, without doing it, but we're really going to need to do it this year. Water meter replacement program, that's just, a smaller line item budget that we use for the customer meters now. If we have to, as they wear out or one breaks, we need to replace meters or provide or pick up new meters in the system as they come along. So that's a smaller item. New services, that's a partial pass through. That's for construction of a new connection and a new water service connection to our service main up to the property line, and those are the fees that we just updated in December with those new fees to represent the new construction costs. So part of the work will get dropped back into the reimbursed into the budget as it goes, but we carry a line item so that we it's an accounting process at the end of the year rather than having to go back each time and request the money. Master meter replacement program, that's the main meters at our where we purchase the water from our from Suez and the North Kingstown, and we don't have any of those scheduled for the next few years. We just replaced the one the Suez North End meter a year and a half ago, I believe. So we're all in good shape with those meters at this time. And then the building and tank improvement program, that's the various capital improvements at the tanks and the buildings. We have some roofing projects for the garages that we'd like to put forward. We've kind of postponed a few things while we've been working out our personnel and through COVID here and the various things. So we've got some roofing and siding projects that are in the works. And then also we have money set aside for when we finish the hydraulic model to be able to implement some capital improvements in the tanks and or at the tanks or throughout the system for treatment improvements and the like to try and address our TTHM issues.
All right, thank you, John. Susan, any thoughts or comments for John?
I just, the vehicle replacement keeps coming up. Maybe Jim can speak to it. Is it every department uses it, or is it individualized, or I can't remember the vehicle replacement townwide. So can you just
we've been recycling vehicles from the police department and trading them back off between parks if they get a new one, or engineering. But we're getting to the end of the line on them. Many of them, we have like a 2004 Taurus that's limping along once in a while that it's used. We try to keep servicing them as best we can. That's what happened when we gave John from engineering, we gave him that truck. We were hoping we get a year out of it, but we didn't get that long. It just died. It's completely unserviceable. Therefore, we had to put it back in the budget.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
So-
the engineering side. This vehicle though is a water, this is coming out of the enterprise fund.
Right.
And this is a water dedicated vehicle, which, again, like I said, this is a 2007 stake body truck. So this is the big truck that you see that's got, looks like the farm truck with the slats on the side that they can pull in and out, and they can carry heavier equipment around or larger supplies to go around. And it also serves as a plow truck in the wintertime. But again, it's got 125,000 miles on it. And we had, it had been set up a couple of years back to be replaced, but we didn't do it at that point in time. But I think we do need to replace it this fiscal year. And what we can do is we can look at it. We can have it checked out by DPW and push it towards the end of the next fiscal year. If we can live that long with it. But generally when these are ordered, you make a specific order and it takes a few months to get the thing once it's on order. So we need to make sure we get it ordered in time. So.
All right, thank you.
Eva, any comments?
Yeah, thanks for that additional info, John. Thanks for the thoroughness.
You're welcome.
Deb?
I just wanted to check the hydraulic model that you mentioned that increased that line item. That's the water testing that you're I guess it's the model that you're doing to verify what the issue has been with the water on the south end of town, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay.
That's the major engineering evaluation that we
Right.
need to do to determine what other improvements or what it's going to take to make permanent improvements on those items.
Deb, you should probably say that again, nice and loud about the south. Just so
Yeah,
we-
I was out, yeah. Well, I mean, I'm all for this, let me just tell you.
Yeah, well needed. Thanks.
Yeah, exactly. So that's fine. Thank you. I just wanted to be sure that's what I thought it was,
Yep.
that it was what I thought it was.
Just two questions. The first one, whether it's John or Chris that answers this, doesn't matter to me. For the enterprise fund for water, is that fund subdivided into a capital improvements fund and an operating budget fund? Or is it just one enterprise fund and you use the money in there as needed?
It's one enterprise fund.
Okay. How much is in there? Do we have a significant surplus, or not surplus, but is it a large amount?
Yes, it's like a 6 font, by the way. So his unassigned right now fund balance is almost 2.8 million.
That is after this budget?
That's as of 6/30/2020.
But then we're doing the 2 million out of there for capital.
Say that again?
Sorry, so if we spend $2 million for capital improvement projects, that would come out of that unassigned fund balance.
No, see, 2 million additional, yes, but what he has right now, if you look at the top of page 64 there, so that has his revenues, and for the 2022 manager's budget, he needs 381,489 of that 2.8 million to make his budget balance,
Oh, got it.
right? So,
Okay.
yeah, in 2021, he only needed about 5,000 to balance his budget. So he'll keep that fund balance there for emergencies or major issues in his fund balance.
Yes, and we need to maintain.
Strictly water.
Yeah, that's water. And the same goes for wastewater too. We need to maintain a very healthy fund balance in those accounts because our primary assets, our underground utilities are not insurable. So when we have like the work we had to repair the force main at the Stanton Ave pump station, that all came out of that fund balance in that area there because we can't go back to the trust and insure those things because they won't insure the underground utilities. So that's one aspect where we need to maintain that, and then also to be able to handle emergencies as such as that.
Okay, so the town would be transferring 381,000.
Not real, no, this is strictly his own separate fund.
Okay,
This money has nothing to do with the town,
okay,
general fund, the town operating.
yep,
This is its own fund, it has its own revenue source, and it maintains itself.
okay,
We don't do a transfer to it. We actually charge him a pilot and admin fees. We charge
great.
enterprise funds, the general fund charges them money, admin and pilot fees.
You didn't mention that revenue before.
So
Well, that
then,
comes in the next tomorrow night's meeting.
Oh, okay.
and then my other question is for John. So in the improvement projects, number 4, the radio read hardware upgrade program, the 1.4 million.
Yep.
I know that a few years back, we had a representative from, I don't know if they were a consultant with the town or if it was a representative from Suez, but somebody came to the budget workshop or to a different meeting to talk about upgrading the water meters to a completely different technology, which was where it would be fully remote reading from a central
This is-
station.
Yeah.
Is that this?
That's what this is. Yeah, that's what this is about. And there's a couple different options to go through, but that is what this is. And we also, with the streetlight system, was put in with the smart controls, with the network control system. So we have the ability to utilize that to communicate, to use as a transmission network to communicate the water meter readings back to. And then what'll happen is we'll have the desktop here at the office and a desktop down at well, once it's up and in, it'll essentially be web-based and you can access it from anywhere. But we'll have that in and brought into here. But that is the system.
That is the one. Okay, because I had received quite a bit of concern. I would say feedback from some residents on potential privacy issues, that sort of thing. As you know, because people are used to the truck coming out and reading the levels from that specific distance, as opposed to a direct feed into a government facility.
It's not it's essentially, it operates in the same fashion. It will read and it will read periodically. And essentially what happens, instead of driving around with a truck and using the operator using a laptop there to click in and pull that radio from that transmitter from their meter, their meter is essentially the same and it has a radio on it and it transmits out, but the polling system will be a fixed base on a PC base at the town hall here or on our computers, or whether it's a hosted system by our vendor, whoever the vendor may be for the meters, but it'll only send the data when it reads it out, when it requests it. But the advantages of that are that we can collect the data a lot more frequently and be able to see. A lot of things people complain about are, oh, well, how come you didn't tell me I had a water leak? You can put an alarm on the system, and we'll have the ability for some of the customers may have the ability, depending how we set the system up, to have it tell them and send them an email if the water use goes up or things like that. So there are a lot of advantages. I understand the concerns for privacy, but it's no different. It's no different than the system now, other than we'll have the ability to do it more frequently and from a desktop.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not concerned about the money portion of it. as it comes out of enterprise. I'm just kind of relaying some concern that I've heard.
Mhm.
But this is something that would come through for approval when we get to
Oh,
that.
yeah. Once, we have to get, it have to go out to bid for this contract and get approval. This just approves the funding, but to actually spend the money, we'll have to
Yeah.
come back and get it. And that's, there's, some documentation and some bid documents that need to be put together for it, and a bit more evaluation to define the scope before we can actually bid it for a contractor.
Great. Okay, got it. All right. Thanks, John.
You're welcome.
Okay, do you want to go to wastewater next on page 66 and operating?
Yep. John, whenever you're ready.
Yep. Again, this is all pretty much the same we've gone through with the other systems we're trying to track with the same operating budgets as a year over year. It looks like we were able to do that for the most part. And it looks like even, from last year, based on the pension contributions and the like, we had a reduction in this year over last year. We do have the insurance numbers look like they went up a little bit, but those are what they are. Everything else is similar. And then we come down and we have the PCA software programs where we didn't have the 27 and change that's being spread across the other two departments. So we need to add that 2765 in. So that number becomes a $9,000 item on the 50230. Is that the right number? 50320.
Mhm.
So that's there. And then the only other item I'd like to highlight in here, in terms of, we'll talk about capital after, is that on page 66, 003249403, the pretreatment revenue still reflects all of our category 3 permit fees. The annual permit fee for those for the restaurants in the category 3s, they were commonly referred to as the grease trap fee. But again, that's the permit fee that for that was waived. So that's 26,000 and what's the rest of the number there? 26 or 24,600 less on that revenue item. That'll just be an adjustment that Chris makes.
Okay, all right, okay, we'll have to fix that. Okay,
All right, and then I guess unless you have questions now, do you want to go right to capital?
Let's go right to capital.
and that's 80, I'm sorry, 82, yes.
Let's see. All right. Okie dokie. Okay. Item 1 is the regional treatment facilities. That's our share of the capital improvements. And these numbers have gone down quite a bit now. And then through the future, we got some big hits over this year with some major improvements they're working on that are ongoing right now at the regional treatment plant. The way this works for the new council members is we are partners with South Kingstown and the University of Rhode Island for the treatment facility on Moreland Avenue. We share the operating costs in that. South Kingstown is the operating partner, so they handle all of the management of the capital improvements and the like, and then we pay a share of the cost. So there are some ongoing improvements, upgrades there now, but and then going forward, we budget for that as we get the dollar figures from South Kingstown. Second item is our treatment plant, the Scarborough treatment plant. And that 2.15 million of projects is we've got a number of different things going on there. The big number there is 1.5 million that's budgeted for the groin restoration, which we have a grant of 625,000, but that grant requires us to borrow our match of which would be another 625. We could fund the rest of the 1.5 if it comes to that out of our own finances. But the matching funds have to be funded through the infrastructure bank, so that would require a loan on that portion of it. Other projects are we've had it in for a little bit. The main generator at the plant is it's an old unit, but it runs pretty well. So there's some pros and cons on replacing that unit with a new one and doing some things, but that might require some other upgrades at the facility that would be more cost prohibitive. But we do have that in the budget for that. And let's see what else here. Some solids handling is. Let me just see here. Sorry, I'm on the wrong page again. Some upgrades in our solids handling, some minor equipment items for that, and a project for reinforcing the storm drain manholes. We just accepted that grant for that project, where we got $130,000 out of a $175,000 project, which we're moving forward with. So that's all in this coming capital budget. And I think that gets me to those numbers there. And then there's also have similar to the water department, we have $100,000 of just miscellaneous improvements as things crop up and need to be fixed or repaired that aren't planned extensively in advance or high ticket items that and again, any of those items that come up that need council approval come before the council as needed. The next item would be, and then the pump station upgrades is $885,000. A lot of that money, some of it is some minor pump upgrades at some of the smaller stations. We've got a few generators scheduled to be replaced at some of the stations. The pumps at Weeda Street, we just did a rebuild on one of those pumps, and we may be looking to do, we'll need to do some more of those. Or actually, no, that's the next calendar year. No, it is there. And then, but a good portion of this work is at Galilee Pump Station, which is in need of a major upgrade, which we're going to pursue and move forward with this year as well. Then the other items are number 4 is kind of, we put this amount in there as kind of a placeholder if we ever get the approval to go and maintain the easement over our interceptor. It's kind of an overland interceptor, and we aren't authorized to go and pave it because of environmental issues and some other ownership issues. But if we have it there to be able to go and do that, if we can negotiate the access to be able to make it a little more.
John, can I just ask you a question? Sorry. The Galilee upgrade, is that going to be connected to quality of improvement of the water or no?
Well, since it's wastewater,
yeah. Well,
if you want to draw the circle from the discharge to the ocean, clean water, and then back to the rain and then into the ground for our water for the Suez, yes, but no, this is strictly the wastewater pump station.
Okay. Yeah, because that seemed. I know. I want to get to the issue on the water, and I was just wondering.
No, this is all wastewater.
Okay.
It's the pump station is located at the end of the escape road, and it's actually there's a pump down there right now. We've got a new one on order, and you're going to be getting a couple of items on it, ahead of some of these improvements that we got to do as on a more emergency basis. Coming forward, but no, it's all this is all on the wastewater side.
Okay, thanks.
John, I want to make sure we stay on track for the other departments.
Yep, yep.
So we can just kind of breeze
Yeah,
through this.
Yeah, we can wrap these up real quick here. Like I said, the I&I removals, those are, we put a number in the budget to carry each year to be able to do some I&I studies at work. The same. And then number 7, again, is that general improvements for just overall for the wastewater system as opposed to the treatment plant. And then a vehicle replacement program here is we have 2 vehicles that are ready for replacement, both getting high mileage and pickup trucks for the work down there. And these are work trucks. These are used throughout. One's the superintendent's truck, and the other is the maintenance supervisor's truck.
Okay, looks good. Susan, I know you just
Not
had
on the
one.
wastewater. No, I'm all set. Appreciate the upgrades.
All right. Yeah, Ev, any questions?
I didn't. I'm all set. Thank you, though.
Yeah.
I'm fine, thank you.
All right. Thank you, John. Appreciate the time.
Yep, thank you. Appreciate your help.
Thanks,
right.
John.
Have a good night. All right, Chris.
Yeah, okay. Next we have Chief Corrigan. There he is.
Good evening.
Hey,
And
Chief.
his operating starts on page 22 and the capital improvement on page 26.
Do you have a preference in which you'd like to handle first?
We could start with operating.
Okay. So my first in operating is going to be my dispatch budget. This is on 9 full-time dispatchers. You'll see that the majority of the lines going all the way down to 50305 are all benefits. They're all covered under the collective Council 94 collective bargaining agreement. And then for all the few discretionary lines that are there, we are doing level budgeting on all. And then the uniforms line, that's also covered under the collective bargaining agreement. So that budget's pretty straightforward unless you have any questions.
Nope.
Okay. The next budget up is our police non-officer. These are non-sworn employees of the town police department. For the full-time staff, you have my executive assistant, prosecution clerk, and the IT person who works here. And then part-time, we have a janitor and a vacant records clerk position. That temporary wage budget line, those are for the CSOs that we hire in the summer. They're interns, college interns. And then everything else here is benefits for the full-time employees, the 3 that I mentioned. You have any questions on those? No.
Anybody else have any questions? No. Okay.
Okay. The next one up is the police administrative budget. For full-time wages, that is myself and my 2 captains. And then the overtime is for the 2 captains. And then a bunch of lines here going straight on down to 50201. Everything above that is a big benefits. And then for the 50201, that's professional services, which covers like our police accreditation and attorney general fingerprint fees. A lot of those funds right there are actually passed through the people who come in for fingerprints. We had a check to the town. So some of that money comes back into the general fund. And then as you go down the lines, you'll see level funding on most of these. For licensing and dues, you'll see $1,000 increase on that line. That was for, we have an administrative program called Power DMS. It holds all our policies and all our training. And we also use it for managing our accreditation program. I purchased a a service in Power DMS as part of my 20 promises for 2020, which is called a forward-facing document feature. You go to the town website and you hit professional standards. It takes you to this Power DMS page where I have a bunch of my policies and other documents published. It makes it easy for me to add content. And also when I edit my policies, it automatically updates it in the on the web page. So there's never a disparity between what is the department's following and what the public can see. And now it's $1,000. So that's the increase of that. Under professional development, you'll see a $3,000 increase. That is our training budget. A couple of years ago, we were at 22,000. We dropped it to 15,000. I was asking for to bump back up a few $1,000s. Again, doing additional training as part of the 2020, as well as other things. Another item where there's an increase is contracted services. You'll see it went from 29,500 to 35,818. And what happened in that line is there was a decrease for the phone service because I went to IT, but we had an increase for our crisis intervention team initiative that we have here for the police department. Looking to increase that line by $9,000. That money would go to our police clinician, mental health clinician that we share with 4 of the police departments. So that'll be our share in contributing. That doesn't cover all of her expense, but we've hoping to get grants for the rest of it. In that line is also our record management system, our main computer program here, and our fingerprint software lease. Otherwise, the rest of the items on this this budget are level funded. Do you have any questions on any of this? Okay, general police patrol is the next line. This is 32 members of the patrol division, 4 lieutenants, 6 sergeants, 3 community policing, and 9 patrol officers. That's the full-time wages there. Mostly benefits here, with the exception of the overtime line, which we're asking for an increase there, which that factors out to 2% on top of last year's, to account for the 2% pay raise that they receive in the collective bargaining agreement. We still have the same demands for overtime, but they always will be making more money. So we thought it makes sense to ask for a slight bump there. The special detail line that you see under 50108, that's a pass-through account. When officers work road jobs, the town pays them, and then we bill the vendor, whether it's Verizon or National Grid or whoever, and the money comes back and goes into the general fund. Any questions on that line, on that budget? I should also mention that we did not include the 41st officer that was cut, that we didn't fill last year. That's one thing that did get cut off during our budget workshops. Next is the total.
I'm sorry, Chief. Chief, it did get cut, or it did get left off?
Yes, we didn't have in there for the 41st officer. That's 40 officers.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. So investigations is the next budget. This is pretty straightforward. Detective lieutenant, detective sergeant, and 3 detectives, and their benefits here. And their overtime, which we level funded from this year. Any questions on that? And then we have an animal control officer budget. That's 1 full-time animal control officer and 1 part-time animal control officer. That position is presently vacant. We're working on filling that. Expect to fill it soon. So that's mostly their pay and benefits, along with some discretionary spending for equipment for and training for that department. Any questions there? And the last budget is the harbor master. This is for a full-time harbor master. And there's just some equipment lines to help maintain. We have patrol boat 1, patrol boat 2, and harbor master boat that he maintains that for us. Any questions on the harbor master? Okay, so those are my operating budget lines. Go to capital now.
That is a big budget. You know, not a lot monetary, but it's a lot of items. So I just want to go through the council, see if there are any questions about operating before we move on. Susan,
No, I'm all set.
Eva, Bev,
I'm all set. I think you do a nice job of managing this. Thank you.
Thank you.
I do want to say, Chief, we'll look at this tomorrow, but I do count 41 positions, including you. Is that correct?
You should be counting me, but I thought we were at 40.
Oh, we'll check that out tomorrow. I'll send that list again and we'll go through it.
Okay.
Okay.
all right, Chief.
So,
Yeah, we can move on to capital.
Okay. So the first item up is going to be vehicle replacement. See, we have in there 150, 153. That is for 3 SUVs and to upfit them, light sirens, prisoner cage, long gun, vault, and all the other accessories for the car. Pretty straightforward. Next item is the MDTs. This is mobile data terminals. That 18,000 will buy 3 MDTs. These are the computers that are on our cars. The cars are like the office. They do everything on those computers, and that includes all the infrastructure. There's a whole you set up a printer, and they got to set up a stand for it to operate safely in the car. And that's a total of that. Body armor, I don't have anything this year. The animal control vehicle, I pushed to next year. We're done with the public safety project. For radios, we have 31,000. That is 16,000 is to purchase 2 consolettes. You may recall from an earlier agenda item that I had when we had to do an emergency purchase for 1. The way our system works here, we have our main state-of-the-art dispatch console. And if that goes down, we rely on 3 consolettes to provide certain channels for police, fire, and other miscellaneous channels. We replaced 1 that went down, and then we have 2 that are, they go back to like 2007. They're not covered. They need to be replaced. And Rhode Island Emergency Management has encouraged us to replace those immediately. So that's 16,000 for those 2. And then the other 15,000 will purchase between 4 and 5 portable radios. As I've mentioned before, most of our inventory of portables stem back to our original purchase in 2007. They were discontinued in 2019, meaning they don't make spare parts for them anymore. So we have this fund. We've been purchasing portables every year. We had to cut it last year, so I was hoping to start doing that again. And then see tasers. I bought a good amount of those a couple of years ago with a grant, so we're all set for this year. And then we have an audio recorder. This device records all of our phone lines, and it records our radio traffic, which we need to have. And it's outdated and in need of replacement. We had it in the budget last year, and it got cut last year, so I'd like to get that done this year. And that's my capital. Oh, I should mention, although we don't have it funded, I put it in here as just like as a conversation starter. The body worn cameras. As you can see, it's very expensive. So when we started talking about the budget and cuts need to be made, we're still studying this issue, and I've been working with the Police Chief Association on a committee. We had a meeting this week, talking to the governor's office. We're talking about state funding and federal funding. So I think there's going to be an opportunity there. So I'd like to keep the capital item there in place to see what we'll need in the future. But for this time frame right now, I think we can find funding elsewhere as we continue to study this and do what we need to do to bring it online. But we are moving forward in the right direction.
Chief, can I just ask you something about the body cameras? Are
Sure.
most communities using them or have made the investment with them at this point?
No. Providence has them. Newport has them. Tiverton was working on it. I'm not sure if they got those online. East Providence recently, but I think that's just like a pilot.
Okay.
And state policemen have been piloting them. I think they plan on purchasing them this year. But we all, as part of our 20 for 2020, everybody's exploring it. Everybody's doing the research. And that's why we started the committee that I'm chairing is to get all the information together. Get the figures
Excellent.
together. Yeah.
Good. Thanks.
And that's it. No other capital items.
All right. So Susan, are you good with questions? Okay. Eva, any comments or questions?
Do not, thank you.
Deb?
I'm fine, thank you.
All right. Thank you, Chief. Looks like a lot of level funding in there. So that's nice. Appreciate it.
Okay.
All right. Have a good night. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chief.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Okay, so we continue on. We have Mr. DeLuca for Community Development and Boards and Commissions. Is he there? Yeah.
Yes, he is.
Yeah.
I am here.
Yes. His operating budget starts on page 20. And then he has one capital project on page 12 later.
Yeah. Okay. Like everyone else before me, I think my budget is pretty straightforward and for the most part, very, very much level funded. So what I think I'd just do is I'll just hit the line items that are showing an increase unless you have questions about anything else. So the first one is the first line item with an increase is full-time wages. Of course, a significant portion of that is related to contractual raises in the Council 94 and 1033. I have two staff members in 1033, one in Council 94, but I'm also anticipating a promotion. So that's why you see an increase, total of about $20,000. Moving down to overtime wages, we have a modest increase there. And that is related to what you all know is that there's been a great increase in the amount of development activity during the COVID period, even though certain businesses like restaurants and others have had severe declines. The ultimate outcome in the development community is that there's been a lot more work going on, a lot more applications. We're anticipating a continuation of what we've seen in the last 12 months of a significant number of applications coming in, which extends the duration of our night meetings and does necessitate a number of special meetings in the course of the year. And as you know, we have 3 boards that we work for. We have 6 boards we work for, 3 of which we provide all the administrative assistance for: Planning Board, Zoning Board, and Historic District Commission. And then also the Conservation Commission, Harbor Management Commission, and Land Trust. So those take up time for my staff, night hour time that has necessarily increased a certain amount of the overtime. Moving on, there's very little on the first page that we have control over, the buyback health and things like that. So I'm not going to speak to those at all. Give me a second. I need a little more light, excuse me. Going down to, we've actually reduced our postage and mailing services since we're doing so much electronically, including things like meetings. Going down to licenses and dues, we are showing an increase there because of increased cost of our professional certifications, that being the professional certifications for the environmental planner, who is also our GIS specialist, and myself. And the environmental planner has added a new certification in the past year, as well as having to add in the licensing for the Map Geo. As you know, that's our mapping program that's available online on the web. So that's where that cost has been inserted. Moving down to, I believe that's it as far as increases in the department budget. Are there any questions on the department operating budget?
Susan, any questions?
Oh, I'm good. Thanks, Mike.
Eva?
Thank you.
Fine, thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
All right. Chris says I have one capital. Which one is still there? I had submitted two.
Oh, yeah, they're both there.
Okay.
Surprise.
You had me for a second. They're listed as community development number 2 and 3. We've eliminated item 1 and it's just sitting there as a placeholder. Item 2 is a comprehensive plan related capital budget item for zoning revisions. And we've been doing zoning revisions, as you know, since 2017. We did some zone changes that were sponsored by the town and finished those up last year. We are still looking at doing drafting some new regulations, including updates to the stormwater runoff regulations, an anticipated update to the natural resource overlays, the chapter 4 of the zoning ordinance that has our natural resource overlays, because we will be eliminating the wetland overlay as soon as the state DEM passes their new regulatory requirements. So we're anticipating looking at our flood zone regulations as well as our high water table limitations overlay district regulations to beef them up a little bit. And also we have one unanticipated project that needs to be undertaken, and that is another zone change sponsored by the town, which was an oversight since the 2017 plan was approved. And it came about as recently as I was speaking with the property owner who was speaking about what he would like to do with his property. And as I looked it up in the comp plan, I realized we had a mismatch, and we had identified it as a mismatch, but somehow we didn't pick it up in the zone change program that we sponsored a couple of years ago. So that'll be coming up. That's not a huge expense, but I do believe that in fairness to that individual, we should be sponsoring the zone change application. And I'm not sure if $6,000 will cover everything we'd like to do. Some of it will be done in-house, and those items that we think are going to be more extensive, that need more intensive time to be given to them, we would look to hire a consultant to do. So that's
Can I
where
say
that
something?
6,000. I'm sorry.
Mike.
Go
Can I
ahead.
say something about that? So if you look at this page, this is not new money. If you
Right.
look at the bottom of that, the project itself on page 14, I don't know if your pages are different, but so if you look at the bottom, there's a balance of 8,224 from a prior year, which carries forward for this project. So he's using 6,000 of prior year money. So that's not new money for the 2022 budget.
Right.
You get that? So if it goes a little over, he's still got another
Still got a cushion there. Yeah.
24.
And the same with the GIS mapping project, that's carryover money.
Mhm.
And what we're doing here is we have a phase 2 component of it that we would like to initiate. We're just wrapping up phase 1 now. My environmental planner and GIS coordinator has been working with the consultant to basically do punch list work in the last 3 or 4 months and get the last bits of the database corrected, updated, and installed. Then we hope to immediately start on a phase 2 project, which would be adding several new layers to the GIS program. And we would be putting out an RFP and seeking to hire a consultant to assist us with that.
Simple enough. Any questions from the council? Susan?
No, it's nice that you have two surpluses in your projects. I hope you spend them and find some good information, Mike. Excellent for both of them. What is
Thank
it?
you.
164, right? 64,000 was one of them for the project.
Originally, you mean the
Yeah.
original?
You carried it over, right?
Yes, that was what had been left with the GIS money.
The other one was only 8,000 balance, so that's a pretty good sized balance. Thanks.
Eva, any comments?
Thanks, Mike.
Okay,
No, thank you, Mike.
all right.
Thank you, Mike.
Do you want to go to the boards now?
Yeah.
Okay,
They start
much-
on page, but they start on page 5.
okay. I'll let everybody get there. Give it a second. All right. My staff, as I mentioned a minute ago, we assist several boards in town, and we also manage their funds. And as you can see, as you look at these are fairly low budgeted boards. Even the planning and zoning board budgets are fairly low. But there's not that much change. Looking at the first one, which is the Historic District Commission, we are requesting an increase in the advertising and promotions component. And that has to do with the increased number of public hearings. We have to pay for the advertising that goes into the newspaper, which is very competitively priced, not expensive at all. But we have had a real influx of historic district applications since the expansion that included the new Narragansett Avenue district, as well as the broadened Central Street district, which almost doubled in size. So we do need some more money for the public hearings. And we are asking for a new line item, which is copy supplies, which we never had before. I think it was an oversight. The way we were handling copy supplies up to this year was paying for it out of the department's copy supplies line item and depleting that. So the Historic District Commission meetings require that we create hard copy packets that we either mail or hand deliver to the board members. And, there's this fair amount of printing that goes on with that. And we do the same with the planning board and the zoning board. So we pump out a lot of paper.
Yeah, so Mike, one of the things I can remember from the past councils, they were trying to be environmentally friendly and really moving towards 21st century online. Now, I'm the last one to speak about it because I'm always the last one on the meetings because I struggle probably the most. But, obviously in a time where we're environmentally aware, if we can figure out some ways, I think even for the council, we're doing, online, no packets or very few packets. And when we talk about copy and printing, sometimes the labor and the work on that is something that we got to revisit. So just keep that in mind with the boards and commissions. If there's other ways to get that information instead of, it's the labor too, not the copies, but the labor as well.
Totally understand and agree with you there, Councilwoman Bonanno. But one of the problems we have, there's a few problems we have. You've been in our office and you see what we do.
Yes.
We work with large scale mapping, oftentimes map sets that are multiple pages, sometimes in excess of 10 pages. And these maps are 24 by 36 or larger sometimes. Very, very difficult to condense those down into something that is transferable electronically, which we do anyway. I will tell you, we do condense them down. But for the board members who receive the agendas, a week in advance or so, to be looking at that material in advance so they can prepare themselves. To do it electronically is very difficult because you can only look at one item at a time on your computer. So we have actually tried a couple of times to see how much we could eliminate in the hard copy printing. And we always find ourselves going back to full-size plans.
I know. And me as well, as much as, I care about it and it's important. I know the challenges and it's not always as easy as it sounds. I just throw that out because over the years, that was really a goal to just really try to minimize as much copying as we could do, because we've got.
I totally agree. We do have a couple of our board members who have told us, on different boards, who have told us to just send them the information electronically. So it's getting there. We're getting there.
Thanks.
So maybe you could just buy, magnifying glasses and save a whole lot of money.
We,
Yeah, there you go.
I have one on my desk at the office.
I was just gonna say, so do I.
When you move on, the next board is the zoning board. Their budget is one of the higher ones, but it's, totals out at $5,450.
Right.
And we have no changes in that one. And as well as the Conservation Commission, we have no changes in their budget. And the Planning Board, we have no changes in their budget either at $6,450. So I will turn it over to you folks if you have questions.
Thanks, Mike.
Any questions from anyone on the council? No. All right. Great. Thank you, Mike.
All right. Thank you.
On page 9, there is the pension board. So
I didn't think I should do that one.
no, I didn't think that's fine. I got, and Dan's gonna help me with this one.
Okay.
In previous years, prior to me, they had a budget, the pension board, and then it went by the wayside somehow. So this year, the board is requesting a budget of $12,000. The professional services, $2,000 is for stenographers or any other service like that. And then there's obviously legal services of $10,000. They just wanted to have some type of budget, and Dan can follow up if he needs to add in anything else.
Can I ask you about that 12,000 that they added to the pension budget? Dan?
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah, so I think that was a very smart thing. I actually had a little note about asking to make sure it was in the budget. Was that as a result of needing outside consults on a particular case?
It was, we won't go
And
into
there
the
was no
case.
money, so we just
We
need
had no money
money
to pay for it, so we
Yeah.
ended up just
Okay.
using, and even if we used in-house counsel, we'd have to pay for that too, so
Okay,
it's there for.
okay, great. I just wanted to make sure that there was money in there for that
Sure.
purpose.
Okay. Dan, was there anything else
No, Chris hit the nail on the head with that, just some legal services in the event we need it in the future. Yeah.
Okay. Deb or Eva, do you have any questions about that for Dan? Okay. I think it's a great idea as well, so that's good.
Okay, so then if we move on, we have Terry Donovan, starting the town clerk, then she has municipal court and then board of canvassers. And that starts on page 12. And there she is.
Now, that is a Wonder Woman. There you go, there you go.
Before
Good
we
evening,
start,
friends.
Terry, I just want to say one thing before we go, because you're going to handle the next three. We didn't get to do it last night because we were short on time, but if there's anyone on the meeting, and I see 2 people in participants, but if anyone is interested in public comment towards the end here, just raise your hand and we'll make sure to get to you, give you a few minutes to speak. That's all. Go ahead, Terry.
Good, thank you. So this will end the work session on a really happy note because my budget is pretty simple and not a lot of increases. The employee factor of it is all figured by the finance director and those numbers are plugged in, so I'll skip past those. And on the town clerk's budget, go directly to professional services. So that would be 50201. All set with that?
Mhm.
Everybody's there? Okay, so that is the line item that we use for the professional services of the court reporters, the stenographers that cover your public hearings. So it doesn't go under the council's budget, it goes under the clerk's budget. We make the arrangements for them and we pay them through our account. When we have an applicant that's applying for something like a zone change or some other modification, you know, a new liquor license. They prepay those fees, so that's you know, there's a wash in and out of the account for that. But there's a lot of things that are initiated by the town itself as the applicant, so to speak, similar to what Mike was just talking about as far as a zone change for a particular parcel to make it consistent with the comprehensive plan. The town initiates it, the town absorbs the cost with regard to advertising and the stenographer. So that line captures that. We figure generally about $350 a meeting minimum. You know, there's appearance fees, and then depending on whether or not we order a transcript, that changes the fee after that. Also on that line is the hosting of our municipal code online. So when you're looking up the town charter or any of the code of ordinances online, the fee for that comes out of this account in professional services. The big jump this year is the addition of $20,000 for recodification. It's the code of ordinances has not been recodified, I think, since 2003. And there have been many amendments since then. So, you know, we batch those amendments each time the council, you know, has a first and second reading and adopts an ordinance. We send it to municipal code. They publish it online as, you know, an update, but it's not integrated within the chapters that that are being amended. So you kind of have to, you know, switch back and forth. They publish supplements with, you know, batches of amendments at certain times as requested, but it really requires that general overhaul of moving all of those amendments into the sections where they belong, so that when you look up something, you see the whole picture. You don't have to also go search and see, well, wasn't there an update 2 years ago? And so that's, you know, that's a fairly major task, but, you know, it's done really no more than once every 10 years. So we're well overdue. And so $20,000 is added to that line, which won't be repeated next year, the year after. It's just a one-time thing pretty much. The next line for contracted services, we have a contract with the company that does our online hosting for the land evidence records, all the deeds, mortgages, liens, releases. And also that's the software program that we use in-house for entering all that data and scanning and indexing all of those documents. We have a contract, we're in the middle of that. Onboard is another service that we use. That's an online hosting for all of the information on our boards and commissions. So when I give you the backup every time the council is considering appointments or reappointments to a board or committee, when I give you the history about who's on it, when they were appointed, how long they've served, when the terms are set to expire, what the charge of the committee is, that's all information that comes from Onboard. So we've loaded it in, and then it's hosted online for anyone to be able to look at any time. And then the last major thing that's in there is Clerkbase. That's another hosting service that maintains the agendas and the minutes. So when I prepare the council packet for your regular meetings and all the supporting materials, that is loaded online for public access, and it's maintained, you know, for archival purposes as well. So it's a great resource. It's easily searchable. They've been in business a long time. We're in the middle of a contract with them, recently renewed by the council, and you know, they've held firm on their fees for a long time as well. So it's been a good relationship. We have good relationships with all of these businesses. That line did go down somewhat, and that actually reverts back to Dan Holland's budget. So one of the things he talked about and the council questioned was about the increase in some of his fees that his department is taking responsibility for, and it includes Viewpoint. So that's the online licensing and permitting program that we use that is also integrated with the state's licensing and permitting program. Each one of our departments was including that in our own budgets as far as, whatever our usage was of that particular service. And so that had been included in my budget before for business licenses and alcoholic beverage licenses. And that cost is now being transitioned into the IT department's budget. So our loss is his gain. So it makes us look good. So the next line, advertising and printing, that's the kind of thing that, when we run the legal ads for ordinance adoptions or in anticipation of a public hearing. And that's really all council directed. When you direct that something be ordered advertised, that's the line that it comes out of. Postage and mailing, we've been able to reduce a lot. We do so much more electronically. Most of our communications are electronic. We do, a lot of email communications, and, that gives us the record that we communicated with them and they responded to us. So we know that they received it, as opposed to snail mail, where you're not always sure that it got there unless you do certified mail. So it's with the zillions of APRA requests that we seem to respond to. That's the way we do it. We do it all by, electronic responses. It keeps the cost down for the town, and it also keeps the cost down for the requester. If we can provide it free of charge, or we can, provide it for minimal cost because we're providing it in electronic format, that's exactly what we do. And like I said, we still have a record of everything. And, sometimes the whole, I know I'm diverting from postage a little bit, but for some of these APRA requests, ask for a history of emails on a particular subject. And there we have it. It's all in one place. It's searchable and reportable. And, we're not looking through various files for paper correspondence. So that's been a win-win for us. Everything else in the clerk's budget, I think, is pretty self-explanatory, unless you have any questions.
No questions here. Anyone on the council?
No,
No.
I'm happy about the 20,000 to quantify. what is. I think that's great.
Yeah, even for regular users, there's a lot of flipping back and forth. And that's for the regular users, and that's difficult to know that you are seeing everything pertaining to the particular topic you're looking for. So people that have, much more kind of momentary experience with the code have a much more difficult time. This is really overdue.
Great. No questions here.
We're good there.
Oh, sorry, I was muted. Yep, we're good there. Thanks, Terry.
Okay. On to municipal court. Okay. So again, skipping past the employee expenses to contracted services. That is the cloud-based data management service that we use for the tickets that are processed through municipal court. So that's for the data itself, so that it's searchable, retrievable. It has to do with the information that's entered between the police department and the municipal court on tickets that are written, and that's an online hosting that we're in a contract for, multi-year contract. Postage and mailing is self-explanatory. Printing, we still have to, that department pays for the printing of paper tickets. So that's still part of the process. When you get down to licenses and dues, that includes the municipal court software. So the actual software that the data entry is loaded into is on that line. The hosting of the data is on the contracted services line. They are related. Those are hand in hand.
Terry, just one question from me. The health insurance line, I saw that one like tripled.
That would be a question for Chris.
Yes, okay.
Yeah, that was a switch in staffing.
So it was someone not using health insurance and then they went on to the plan?
Yeah. Wait, where, how do you, hang on,
Unless I'm not reading it right. 50124?
hang on, I need my ruler. Yeah, health insurance, yeah, okay. Go ahead, go on, I'll look at the data right here.
Okay. Was there anyone else on the council with any questions for Terry on this?
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, I'm ready. Yeah, there was a transfer of staff between offices, and so there was different health coverage.
Okay. That's
So
fine.
there should be a reduction on a line
Somebody
in
else.
another division of the clerk's office that corresponds.
That corresponds.
Got it. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Is there one?
So there's no new health expense if you're looking at the full staff of the town.
The net, that's
Only
correct.
office, yeah. And then if it was a switch of two people, the person from municipal court went to somewhere else and they still don't use the health insurance. So that makes sense. Deb, does that make sense to you?
The idea does, but I'm not sure the numbers do. Because wouldn't that be, it would be from the, oh, wait a minute, maybe I'm looking at the wrong sheet. Never mind. Yeah, okay. I'll double check myself.
Yeah, I think it would be hard because you'd have to basically dig through.
And I think the
No,
year
it'd be in the town
before there
clerks,
was,
right?
there was a change in the clerk's office as well, wasn't there? So you have two changes, a new person in the clerk's office and then a switch between the clerks and the canvassers.
So no new hire.
No new hire. No, just transition of staff from last year, correct?
But wouldn't that result in an equivalent reduction in the clerk's office?
A clerk went from tax collection
Oh,
to,
so we have to go back to tax collection to find where the, okay, I got it. I'll wait till tomorrow night then. Okay, that's fine.
again, that was the previous year, so it's
All right,
a couple of years back. Yeah.
I'll take a look at it. Okay.
All right,
Okay,
Terry, so that's
And
all
I can't speak to the individual circumstances of this. That is
Right.
Chris's.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about
No,
benefits.
that's fine. That's fine. That's fine.
Okay.
I can
But
give
I
a
was just saying
spreadsheet.
Right.
people's circumstances.
I have another spreadsheet if you'd like to see it.
There you go.
Not really. No.
Okay, to go on to Board of Canvassers.
Yes, please.
Okay. So Board of Canvassers is, of course, responsible for the elections and voter management and administration. And that can fluctuate fairly wildly from year to year. We can certainly anticipate, when we expect there to be primaries and general elections and budget accordingly. But there were some surprises last year, some additional election events and the way they were managed with requirement for more processing time by Board of Canvassers staff with regard to all of the mail ballot encouragement. So, there was a lot more activity that we hadn't anticipated, and certainly a lot of that was COVID related, but it looks that practice will continue for future elections. So And with the last year, just for reporting's sake, with all of those elections and special events, there were a lot more people involved as a result. We consolidated polling districts wherever we could to reduce the number of personnel that had to be hired for those events. But on the other hand, we had to hire additional personnel to control the number of people in the room at any given time, to do sanitizing between voters. There was just kinds of different kinds of activity than we've done before. So we've tried to anticipate for all possible contingencies going into the next budget, although we don't expect there to be that kind of activity again. The big thing that will impact the Board of Canvass's budget this year is redistricting. So every time the census is done, the state looks at what the demographic and population distribution throughout the state is. And depending on whether or not there have been some shifts or there have been some changes in density of voter location, the lines for the General Assembly districts may be changed so that there's equitable representation in those districts. So that is really a massive undertaking. And literally all of the municipalities hire a service to do this because they coordinate with the Census Bureau and the information that they've collected. They utilize GIS maps. They're working with the Board of Elections and the Secretary of State's office and coordinating, the local information that we have and verification. There's a lot of mailings involved. So I've incorporated, increased postage to allow for that. That has to be, it's a legal requirement as far as it has to be done by mail so that it's not forwardable, it's returnable if that person is no longer at that address. So we have a verification if we make any changes that we've got the documentation as to why. So the state actually does the vetting of the firm that is used to assist with the redistricting, and the really strong estimate is about $20,000. So we've incorporated that into this year's budget. Same thing, kind of a one-time event. It's like the recodification. It's tied to the census. When it's done, it's done. And
For 10 years.
Something you have to incorporate. Mhm.
All right, thank you, Terry. Anyone on the council have any comments or questions about Board of Canvassers budget? Okay. Deb, do you?
No, I'm okay.
Okay. All right, wonderful. Thank you, Terry, and everyone
Thank you.
else.
Thanks, Terry.
Before we end the evening, we have one resident who's been very patient with their hand up. So Dan, do you mind moving over Mr. Wojciechowski?
Not a problem.
Stanley, you there?
Yes, can you hear me?
I can hear you. I don't know if we have to do this in a workshop, but if you could state your full name and address for us.
Stan Wojciechowski, 1044 Boston Neck Road. I just wanted to recognize the police seeing level funding, very close to level funding. That was a positive note. Happy to hear that. Although I did hear that there was a vehicle that only had 140,000, and my idea of they need to be 250,000, 300, at least 250,000 before we start implementing the change in vehicles. And I want to keep on hammering at that, so at least we can stop moving in that direction. So that's one area of concern. Another one is, do individual departments have undesignated funds? I thought that the library and the school has their own undesignated fund sector, or their own, each, so they have their surplus And I don't like individual departments having their, except for, like I say, water and sewer. I can water, I can understand them doing it. But other departments, specific departments, I think should not have surplus funds that they think that they maybe have to spend so they can get more surplus next year. So if there is any surplus undesignated funds in any department, I would hope that they would indicate that when they speak. I'd like to hear that, okay? The other issue is, I think I heard the first day yesterday, 3.7% increase. 3.7% increase. I thought Pat was mentioning that with the library thing going away, the bond issue, we would have a 16% surplus. And I would suggest subtracting that 3.7. Therefore, we go down to a 12% surplus. I think I think there was a 10% minimum on surplus, according to Chris, I thought. So surely we could go from the 16 down to 12%, still be financially okay, and not have an increase in our budget. I think we should, in this COVID time, and I don't know how long this thing's gonna last, we're looking at a booster shot and whatever, this is crazy. I don't think people have extra money, and I think government should lead the way and say, okay, we're going to be level funded. We're not going to increase the 3.7% in our budget. We're going to do the right thing financially. So that was kind of the main topics. Again, you'll hear it all the time, is the surpluses and the vehicles. All the other items, I think all the department heads are so professional. There's no way that I can pick them apart. They really are good in the presentations. And, I understand that normal increases in salaries by contracts have to happen. I understand that. And maybe in the future, we can look at contracts negotiations to make them closer to the cost of living. So we don't continue to maybe go heavy on that end. But as far as on a whole, the presentations are very professional. And all I can really pick on, like you say, is the surpluses that I think is the council's responsibility to bring it where it needs to be. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Stanley. All right, so that wraps it up for tonight. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Again. And
you,
we'll
Everyone, have a good night.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
tomorrow night.
See you tomorrow night.
Hi, everybody.
See you tomorrow night.
Thank you.